Case file number 3528, written by Anonymous. Hospitality in Chains. My friend had a bit of a loner uncle, kind of a drifter type. He was a proficient hunter with both rifle and bow. Once, in his late 20s, back in the late 70s or early 80s, he was driving late at night and found himself getting too exhausted to drive much longer. He pulled into a gas station in one of those two-house towns in the middle of nowhere, West Texas, asking how far to the nearest town with a motel. He ended up chatting with the cashier for a bit, talking about hunting, and the cashier told him about some property his family owned. They had a cabin and some land about 45 minutes from the gas station and any other humans that no one used anymore, and he was welcome to stay there for the night or a few nights if he wanted to hunt on the land. Most people in rural Texas are pretty cool like this, so he thought nothing of it and agreed, thanked the man, and got directions as well as a location of the key. So he heads out, finds it easily enough around midnight, although the road and property are pretty worn down. He said the grass and flora had overgrown the road so bad he could barely tell where to go, and it looked as if no one had been there in years. He decides just to stay for the night, and sits up on the couch in the living room without going into any other rooms, with his German Shepherd next to him and his hunting knife under his pillow. A few hours later, he wakes up and his dog is growling softly and staring down the pitch black of a hallway with the hair on his back raised, looking scared as hell. The moonlight isn't reaching in far enough to light the hall. He grabs his knife and they both sit in silence for several minutes, staring down the hallway. And when he finally tries to comfort the dog and tell him it's okay, there is a noise from the wood ceiling, from what must have been an attic he had not known about. He could only describe it as the sound of a heavy chain attached to the floor on one end and something else on the other end, moving rapidly back and forth to the end of the chain length and back, with the heavy chain dragging across the floor and echoing through the house as it jerked whenever its captive reached its full length. He immediately grabbed his crap and both he and his dog bolted out the door, jumped in the truck, and hauled away. On the drive out, he notices another truck creeping through the tall grass of the road toward the house with no lights on. He plowed off the road to go around it, and as he passed, he saw the gas station cashier in the truck cab with a look on his face he styled as demonic, impossibly warped out. He hauled off, never looked back, and only told my friend, his nephew, about it once. But his dad backed it up, saying he was never the same afterwards. My friend says his uncle is the type of person who did spontaneous stuff like this often when he was young, and he was never scared of anything. But after this happened to him, he was so creeped out, he gave up that lifestyle for many years. So I will say this, if demons do exist, this would be a story that you could associate with a demon. You see this cashier in a small town directs you to a place where, they want to abduct someone. Obviously, that's what they were coming to do. Maybe someone who was chained upstairs wasn't an animal, but another human being, which is, reminds me of the Supernatural episode, is it The Benders or something like that? Where there's no crazy supernatural force. It's just humans kidnapping people. They want to hunt them down as the best sport. Terrible. But in this case, it might be supernatural. There could be a demonic force involved by the description of the face of the person, the cashier coming back. Could just be his mind that was filling in the gaps and, expecting it to be horrific. And maybe he was just overlaying that on the person's face. And it's funny. What is the difference? If it's just a normal person, their soul is still so black, they may as well be a demon. Welcome, I'm Paul. This is Dave. Today I have 15 Glitch in the Matrix and paranormal stories for you. My favorite one involves flowing through flames. Let's get to it. Case file number 3529, written by Anonymous. The home with a mango memory. My family and I have always had the belief that our house is haunted, at least was. There hasn't been a whole lot of activity recently, but a few instances over the years really stand out in my mind. First off, my parents bought this house in 1983 after it had been abandoned. My parents renovated the whole thing and added a second half to the house. We have an acre-large backyard, and in the very, very back, behind some mango trees, is a concrete slab. Inscribed on the slab is BW75, along with the image of a cross on a hill. Weird, no? Instance number 1. One of my brothers came home late from a party one time past 2 a.m. Multiple appliances in the kitchen were randomly turned on. Instance number 2. I was sitting in my dad's office on the old side of the house. All of these encounters happened near this area. He was sitting in the living room about 100 feet away. We both hear someone go, "Hello," near the house entryway, between us. The front door was never opened, no one was there. Instance number 3. I was in my dad's office late at night playing Warcraft 3. Everyone else in my house was asleep. I hear a shuffling noise outside the office door in the hallway, followed by a soft voice mumbling. I figured it's my dad, so I say, "Sorry for staying up so late, I'll go to bed soon." I look over in the darkness and don't see anything. I turn the light on, but no one's there. Instance number 4. My oldest brother was alone in the house. Everyone else was on vacation, and he was about to head out to a party. His friend is parked outside our house waiting for him. From where his friend was, you can see through our windows into the dining room. The dining room is just adjacent to my dad's office in the old part of the house. That evening, my brother gets in his friend's car, ready to leave, then realizes he forgot his wallet. He goes back into the house, grabs his wallet, then returns to his friend. As they're driving away, the friend goes, "I didn't know John, my other brother, was in town too." My brother tells him he isn't, that he's on vacation with the rest of us. The friend then says, "Well, who was following you around the house when you went back inside for your wallet?" We have a large mirror in the dining room, so my brother assumes what my friend saw was just his reflection in the mirror as he was walking by. The friend goes, "No, this guy was much taller than you." Scared the bejesus out of my brother. I have to say, I have felt uneasy at times being in my house. Sometimes the rooms used to get colder at night, and I would feel like someone's watching me and in my room with me. Usually the feeling was fleeting, and never once have I felt threatened or malicious intent. Apparently the house used to belong to a couple of dealers before it was abandoned. I sometimes wonder what's beneath that concrete slab in my backyard. Case file number 3530, written by Banana Vixen. Vanilla spoken twice. I, 40 female, went to the ski hill last Friday with my boys, 13 and 11. I'm not skiing this year, so I was a lodge lump with my bestie, 43 female, so our kids could ski together. We decided to get snacks. In the cooler, there were those jarred frappuccinos from Starbucks, 2 rows of mocha, 2 of vanilla, and I made a comment about it to my best friend forever. I don't like the mocha flavor, so I grabbed a vanilla, checked out, and stuck it in my pocket to go to the bathroom. We got back to the table, and the plastic shrink wrap didn't wrap over the top. There were 2 other moms there. It was a school ski day, and I asked everyone if it was weird that the plastic didn't cover the lid, because I thought they had perforations and you were supposed to rip it off before opening. We all agreed it was supposed to have perforations, but the top wasn't popped, so it was probably okay. At which point I noticed it was a mocha, not vanilla flavored. I will make a comment about this too. It's weird, but not that weird. Probably just grabbed the wrong one, but really I know I didn't. So I sit there and sip on it for a while, give a sip to one of my kids when he comes down off the hill, move to another table to talk with another friend and start telling her about the mix-up. I show her my mocha, and it's vanilla again. She said she saw it was mocha earlier when we were talking and swears it was mocha, and now it's vanilla. My kid says it was always vanilla. Best friend forever says it was vanilla the whole time, and another mom friend who was there from the beginning swears it was mocha. It's a little thing, but apparently me and 2 of the other moms are from my original timeline, but my son and best friend forever are from a different one? Me and myself merged for a moment and apparently swapped people? But why my son and my best friend forever? Case file number 3531, written by Mere Simpleton. Distances measured in silence. I was about 14 at a sleepaway camp in Colorado. This camp is a very outdoorsy camp that involves a ton of camping and hiking. Another thing that makes it different is that you get to choose what trips you would like to go on. There was one trip called the Lone Vigil, in which you would hike out 4 miles alone, set up camp in the woods, and sleep there overnight. Most kids were too scared to do this, but being the badass that I am, I decided I was up for the challenge. So, I hiked out and everything was okay. I set up camp and cooked my macaroni on my propane grill, and went back to my camp to read my assigned summer reading book. It slowly became darker, and I slowly became more uneasy. I heard coyotes howling, bushes rustling, and predator noises. Archer. But I knew these noises came with the woods, so I thought nothing of them. I slowly drifted to sleep. I woke up the next morning completely unharmed, except some of my things had been moved around, and the zipper on the tent was in a different place than where I had left it in the previous night. I brushed it off as if I was rolling around in my sleep. The light was beautiful on the hillside, so I decided to take some pictures with my disposable camera. Fast forward about 15 days, and I'm home developing my pictures. I'm going through them, and they all seem pretty normal, but then I get to the one that seemed odd. It is a very close-up picture of my face. My face. I think that I must have accidentally rolled on the camera and taken the picture. As I keep looking through them, the pictures slowly are from farther and farther away. The last one is from outside the tent with the flap open. To this day, I have no idea who took them or what exactly happened. We called the camp and let them know, and they searched the grounds for trespassers, but found nothing. They now only have dual vigil with 2 campers because of this incident. Case file number 3532, written by Turtle 46. Too close to be the moon. When I was a kid, maybe 10 or 11, I wanted to take my dog outside, so he could do his business. I walked outside with him because he was prone to run around and play after he was done. It was my bedtime, so I would watch him and call him back in right after he was done. Well, I looked to my left, and the moon was as bright and large as I'd ever seen it. Too large and too bright, and yellowish. I focused on it, and I noticed it had facial features. What appeared to be a rough outline of a mouth and eyes, or at least just had ridges. It also appeared to be close, maybe a few thousand feet away, or closer. It scared the pee out of me. I quickly called in my dog and locked the door. I've always been an inquisitive and deducible person, even as a child, and knew I must have mistook what I saw. After about 30 minutes of being terrified and allowing my mind to clear, I picked up my courage and went back outside. It was gone. The next day, at school, I asked my friend if he had seen the moon and noticed anything odd the night before. He told me no, and asked why I was asking. I told him and he laughed at me, and told the entire classroom too. The entire classroom naturally laughed. As a young kid, I was so embarrassed that I took the event and put it in the back of my mind, never to talk about it again. However, that night, I stayed outside for a while, looking around. I even took note of the location of the moon, which was not where I saw that thing the night prior. To this day, I still think, what the hell did I see? I know I wasn't dreaming, nor was I on anything. Case file number 3533, written by Cyberlick. Training ends here. I lived in a rural part of Georgia when I was a teen. I was driving a friend home one night after rehearsal. He lived out in the boonies, meaning a good 20 minutes away from the downtown area of this small town. This area happens to be in the flight path of Hartsfield Airport and also a couple of military bases, so seeing lights in the sky at night is a regular and unremarkable occurrence. My dad was ex-Army aviation and worked at Hartsfield, and he'd teach me to identify aircraft from the ground. As you get closer to my friend's house, you break out of the forest into some pasture land. As soon as we did, we saw a bright light fairly close to the ground. We both thought it was crazy that something would be flying that low, but sometimes the military helicopter pilots would fly that low for whatever reason. I figured it was a helicopter because it wasn't moving. Like I said, my dad is ex-Army aviation, and I can identify most modern military helicopters by sound or sight, even at night. This aircraft didn't have multiple operating lights. It's not strange to only see one light, especially if the craft is coming head-on to you or moving directly away from you, which can also make it seem like it's hovering in place. I slow down because the light is within 100 to 200 yards and, like I said, fairly close to the ground. I'd estimate no more than 25 to 30 feet up. Certainly enough for clearance, but I'm vaguely freaked out because I'm not hearing any rotor wash noise at this point, and it's pretty close. And keep in mind, if you've never been next to a live helicopter, they are louder than you can imagine. I come to a full stop. My friend is obviously feeling as uneasy about this as I am, and I make a crack about, why do aliens only visit people in the rural south? We both laugh at that, and at that moment, the object very quickly ascends about 100 feet. Oh crap, is all I manage to say. The light gets suddenly brighter, and then almost faster than you can track, ascends until it is out of view. I quickly drove the rest of the way to his house. His place was about 10 minutes from mine, and that was the most frightening 10-minute drive I've ever made. Case file number 3534, written by Not So Witty Name. Closure served warm. I began dating a fine gentleman right before my senior year of high school. We had been close off and on, and had gotten particularly close right before we started dating. He was having a lot of issues with his family, in particular his dad. Soon after we started dating, we got very serious. One might call him my high school sweetheart. We dated for about a year before I broke up with him when I was going away to college. He was staying in my hometown, and stuff had gotten rocky in recent months. It didn't seem worth it to keep the relationship going. He was very torn up about it and wanted to make things work, but I said no. Fast forward a year or so, and his dad dies. I'm the only one who knew the extent of their relationship, or lack thereof. I'm the one friend who knew him and his dad and their situation the best. He comes to me. I'm there for him when he needs me, which lasts a couple months. Again, I leave him and he's devastated, even though I'd been upfront that I would be there for him only if he understood that it wouldn't turn into anything serious. Fast forward another year, and he has joined the army because that's how he feels like he can reconnect to his dad. Fast forward again, he gets hit by an IED and spends a year getting better before he suddenly dies in his sleep. We had remained friends and kept in touch even though he lived far away. He was suddenly married because he had a kid on the way, and we talked about our past and our futures without each other. He always told me to make sure my boyfriend would take care of me because I deserved the best, and he didn't want me to get hurt. He will always be special to me, and I think I was always going to be special to him. I was very upset when he died. I'm still upset about it, actually. Okay, anywho, a few months after he died, I had a very vivid dream. I would say a dream this vivid has maybe happened to me one or two other times. In this dream, I was at a restaurant on a date. I looked past my date and saw my ex there, also on a date. In my dream, he's also already dead, which is why it's so shocking. I keep looking at him, thinking he looks insanely like my ex-boyfriend, so much so that I'm literally just staring at him. In my dream, I'm totally aware that I'm staring, and I'm aware that it's really rude to do this, but I don't care. It looks so much like him that it must be him, and that doesn't make sense because he's dead. The next part is what gives me chills. He looks right at me while I'm just staring like an idiot, smiles the most glorious smile. He had a mega smile, one of my favorite things about him, and nods as if to say, "Yes, not so witty name, it is me." I'm not really into the paranormal thing, So I brought it to a friend of mine who's really into spirits and stuff. He thinks that the ex was letting me know that things are okay. He's fine, and everything will be okay. I don't know if that's true or not, but I like to think it is. It makes me smile, thinking that he looked out for me, and maybe still is. Case file number 3535, written by B.S. Snow White. Cold enough to stop a heart. Anyway, 6 years ago, my husband was home recovering from surgery to remove a cancerous tumor. It was a normal Wednesday night when he developed sudden, intense pain. He didn't know it at the time, but he had a new tumor in his spleen, which had caused it to rupture. He was bleeding internally. I got him to the car to take him to the ER, but then thought that I'd better grab a jacket because it's always chilly in hospitals. I ran in the house, through our living room. Now, off of the living room, the laundry is to the right and the master bedroom is to the left. The second I stepped through the doorway into the hallway connecting all three, it was as if I walked through a wall of cold electricity. It felt like every hair on my head stood up. It was, without a doubt, the most unnerving feeling I've ever experienced, and it stopped me in my tracks. At that instant, the TV in my bedroom came on by itself. I just turned and ran out of the house. My husband almost bled to death that night. He was in the hospital for several weeks. The TV in my bedroom continued to come on by itself several more times. I unplugged it and it came on 2 more times. There was no explanation for that. Thankfully, my husband is okay. Case file number 3536, written by Lamerhe. Gravity, please explain yourself. Today, I came home from the gym. My partner was already home, just doing their own thing. We were casually talking about our things and dinner plans. At some point, I noticed some papers on a table that needed to be thrown away, receipts from a scarf I bought yesterday. I grabbed all the papers and walked toward the kitchen to throw them in the trash. As I crossed the living room and reached the kitchen doorway, a ring suddenly fell to the floor behind me. I saw it out in the corner of my eye and heard it bounce. The strange part is that I lost this ring 2 years ago. There's no obvious way it could have fallen from my clothes or my hands, and my partner was standing about 1.5 meters behind me the whole time. We were the only 2 people in the house, in the same area near the kitchen. We're 1 meter away from the chimney, so nobody touched anything on top of that. I'm not jumping to paranormal conclusions, but I honestly can't figure out a logical explanation. Again, I lost the ring 2 years ago. Case file number 3537, written by MB Assist. Dead End and Departed. I have lived in San Diego all my life. My high school is connected to a park. It's a pretty big public park, but the gates lock every night at 10 p.m. sharp. If I remember right, could be earlier. Me and my friends used to drive around, because when there's nothing else to do, just driving around is a good way to pass the time. Anyway, we had this game where we could just follow a car around until they noticed and got scared. We thought it was hilarious to make people think they were being followed and stalked. One time we start following this car. He leads us down the back road to the park, so we follow in straight behind him, knowing full well it's leading to a dead end, because why the hell not? We see the driver throw out a wallet and let it land on the ground. He goes around a corner and we follow him. There is no one there. No car, no person, nothing is there, just a locked gate and a dead-end road. We went back and picked up the wallet. Nothing much in there. A thin wallet with an ID and some cards, but we decided the next morning we're going to return this guy's wallet. Maybe we'll answer a few impossible questions. So it turns out this guy lives just a few apartments down from me. My friends come over the next day and we go return the wallet. When we arrive, we take a peek in the windows. The place looks abandoned, no one there. We hang out for a few minutes and a neighbor comes out, saying that the people in that building had packed up quickly and left a few weeks ago. My friend still uses that wallet 7 years later. So we have seen this before, where ghosts and spirits apparently can manifest even entire vehicles. Now, I always assumed that the spirit couldn't manifest it. They could just take possession of it. They could just hotwire it and drive it like any other person if they're corporeal enough. Or maybe this was a space-time portal that was only there, but that doesn't really make sense because you had to drive through the same spot. Unless, as soon as they passed through it, it disappeared. It evaporated away. I don't think that's right. Normally, if a space-time portal is unstable, then there's visual effects surrounding it, even auditory. So you would have noticed that. Either way, nothing fits perfectly, because I don't really believe spirits can materialize a vehicle. Maybe if it's not corporeal, maybe they can only manifest an image of it, enough for them to drive, but they're just ghosts, so it's easy then. Again, it's like the Supernatural episode where there's a truck that is just phasing in and out of reality. I think it was a racist truck or something. I don't know. Weird, strange episode. I don't think there's any Supernatural episode I didn't like, though. So, even the bad ones, quote unquote, it's only relative to other good episodes. I like the whole show. Case file number 3538, written by Sick Nicholas. A woman, a storm, and a message late. So, I'm walking home from a friend's house late one night. A 6-mile walk. It was about 1 a.m. and the bus wasn't running. Before I left, my friend and I were talking about the cemetery I had to walk by in order to get home. He kept trying to scare me, saying I was going to see a ghost if I looked in the cemetery. I laughed it off and started to walk. So here I am, walking across town alone, late at night. My iPod was dead, so I was equipped with nothing but a packet of sunflower seeds. After some time, I started to approach the cemetery. It's about 2:30 a.m. now, and I'm about 1.5 miles from home. I was actually pretty scared at this point, so I was on the opposite side of the street, looking down at the floor, eating my sunflower seeds. Then, I heard a voice in the distance, coming from the cemetery. It scared me, but I had to look to see if I was going to see this ghost my friend was joking about. I looked up, and there was this lady pacing back and forth on the opposite side of the street. I'm thinking to myself, okay, crazy lady, I'll just keep walking and mind my own business. A moment later, she starts screaming while continuing to pace back and forth, waving her arms in the air, speaking in tongues. So now I'm like, okay, real crazy lady, mind my own business, keep on walking. All of a sudden it gets real windy, and this crazy woman is screaming nonsense, and I mean screaming. She waves her arms in the air, and a lightning bolt comes down in the distance. I ran all the way home after that. Also, I later found out my friend's dad passed away that night. Okay, so you mentioned his dad passed away, may his soul rest in peace, or live in a different quantum reality. But was this his wife, maybe? And this was like her emotional rage. But then it would be odd to visit a grave where he isn't buried yet. So I don't know. Maybe it was just a location of a graveyard to reflect death in general from his wife, and that was just expressed in this way, with the crackling of a lightning bolt, the Zeus himself fueling her rage. Or maybe it was just unrelated, but it seems like a weird coincidence if they are completely unrelated. Case file number 3539, written by Clementine Coda. Found after the flames. This involved an earring that was at my grandmother's, part of a matching set with a necklace. She had lost one earring in the 70s or early 80s, before she even gave me the rest of the set. I kept the necklace and single earring in a box, not jumbled with other jewelry, through a rental and 2 homes. I occasionally wore the necklace, and always thought I'd turn the earring into something else or sell it. Went through a house fire, so that box was packed away, the whole house was emptied and cleared out, painted, and new carpeting in the bedroom. No old clothing, that was all thrown out, and only a few pieces of new furniture had been moved in. The day after the new carpeting was installed, I found the earring on the rug, right in the middle of the empty room. I thought, that's weird. Maybe someone was rifling through my stuff, which was all in boxes in the garage. None of the boxes had been opened. I unpacked a bit over the next few days and found that the other earring was still in the box with the necklace. Nothing else had been touched. I thought I was losing it. Went and got the other earring I'd put in a little drawer in the bathroom. It was a mate to the earring that was lost almost 50 years ago. These are the best DOP stories where there is no real explanation besides the universe just materialized it for you. Eventually, it took their sweet time. Never happened for your grandma, but for you, for whatever reason, it finally came back. And, that's cool. And the fact that this happened even after you moved, you rented your new homes, there was a fire in your place. You had to clear everything out. It eliminates every variable I can think of where this earring finally returned for you. The only player left is the universe itself. Case file number 3540, written by Confounded Norseman. A cigarette for the dead. I used to live out in a parish of a small Lutheran church out in the country. The church has a real old cemetery around my house. You would think it's creepy, but it's actually really well kept and even at night looks very welcoming. One night, I was outside smoking a cigarette when I saw an Impala pull up. Now, around that time, there were some jerk kids stealing church wine, poles, candle holders, etc., so I was keeping an eye on them. In the light, I was able to get a good glimpse of them, and they were middle-aged gentlemen that looked exactly alike, same height, same build, and damn near the same face. I was a good 200 feet away from them, so I could be a bit off on the face, but still, they had to be related. I watched them go up to a grave and stand there looking at it for 10 to 15 minutes, smoke a cigarette, then leave. After they left, I went over to make sure they didn't screw with anything. I checked out the gravestone, and it was for a pair of twins who died a couple days apart when they were babies in the late 1800s. To this day, I have no idea why they were out there, but a chill ran down my back for a good 3 months every time I looked at the cemetery. Okay, so we're all thinking it, right? A 67 Impala? So this was Sam and Dean? Now, obviously it wasn't, but why does it have to be an Impala? That's just a weird connection that I... Reminded me of Supernatural, so that's not a bad thing. Great story for that reason. Case file number 3541, written by Secret Name is Secret, a still shape in the only light. I was visiting home one summer during college and was driving to my parents' house after having spent the evening with my then boyfriend, now husband. We lived in a very small, rural desert town, so naturally, it was generally very dark at night with no city lights or street lamps around. It was around 2 a.m. and I was speeding down the main road to a military base where my parents lived, going about 45 miles per hour. I had the music blaring and the windows were open. I was in the obvious driving zone. There was no one else on the road. As I approached the only lit intersection before the base, I knew I wouldn't need to slow down because the light wouldn't change. Suddenly, right in the middle of the intersection, there was a big black dog, like a Labrador. He was just sitting there, staring straight at me in the light. I slammed on my brakes, not wanting to hit him. He didn't run. My truck came to a halt right where he would have been. I didn't feel a thump, and I didn't hear a cry. My heart was pounding in my chest, and I began to shake from the adrenaline. I expected to see the dog come trotting around the truck, but no. I inched the truck forward and continued through the intersection, slowly, looking for the dog somewhere, but he was nowhere to be seen. The funny thing is, he didn't seem threatening. He felt like a warning. Case file number 3542, written by Rocket Ship Otter. When the Light Whispers. Once, when I was about 6 or 7, it was the middle of the night, and I had woken up because I had heard noises. My closet door, which was right across from where I laid my head, and was normally closed at night, was open, and there was a strange light coming from it. It wasn't just like the light being on in it or anything. There was an immense glowing that came from it, pure glowing white, looking in the middle of the closet, and the light faded out from there. It almost looked like a tall, shapeless, glowing figure standing there. Being only in the first grade, I couldn't make much sense of what was going on, and so I said, "Alex, which is the name of my sister. even though it obviously wasn't her. The voices that had been the ones that woke me up responded back. Rachel. My name. It sounded like a woman's voice. Thinking about it now, I guess you could picture Marilyn Monroe's voice saying softly, Rachel, in an eerie tone. And I saw the light continue to move around in the closet, still saying my name again and again. I didn't know what the hell I was supposed to do. I tried screaming for Mom, but then every time I opened my mouth, nothing would come out. After that, I think I just passed out because it was an overwhelming darkness that came over me after that. In the morning, all of my blankets were off of me, and I was laying by the closet door, which was halfway open. Now time for the jokes of the day. After kissing my wife on the couch, she said, "Let's take this upstairs." "Okay," I said. "You grab one end and I'll grab the other." "Doctor, I think I have ADHD. I can never remember where I parked my Ford. That's not how ADHD works. But I keep losing my focus." Did you hear about the butcher who backed into his meat grinder? Needless to say, he got a little behind in his work. There was once a man named Odd. People make fun of him because of his name, so he decided to keep his gravestone blank where he died. Now when people pass by the burial site, they point and say, "That's odd." I once got fired from my job just because I was eating chips while I was working, and after that, I couldn't get a job at any other casino. Those wouldn't taste very good. Ugh, imagine the germs on that. Damn. Video up here. YouTube thinks you'll like it. Check it out. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe. See you next time.